Hello everyone. Today we are going to see how to implement login-logout system in our website, and we are also going to see how to implement session in our website to store the session variable and use those variables in another pages of the website. Let's first see demo of our system. Here I have created the one basic login form which takes email ID as an input and password, and after clicking on the login button we redirect user to the welcome page. So let me enter the email ID and the password of the user, and after clicking on the login button we get redirected to the welcome page. On the welcome page we display the email ID of the user which user have entered while logging. After clicking on the logout button, we redirect user to the login form again. So for displaying the user email ID on the welcome page, we have used a session to store the session variable and use that variable on the another page, which is welcome page. So without further delay, let's see how to implement this system. So to write the code, I have used Visual Studio Code Editor. Now, in our system, I have created the three files. One is a login.php, second is a logout.php, and the third is the welcome.php. I am going to explain the whole code line by line in detail. So first, let's see how I have created the login form. So to create the login form, I have taken a basic template from Bootstrap which contains two fields. One is an email address, second is a password. Here I have created a one division and given a class as a container which is a Bootstrap class. Now in email address field, input field, I have given a name as an email ID to access the input given from the user. And same for the password, I have given a name as a password to the input field, and login button as a btn click. Now I have given a form action as a login.php and declare method as post. Now after writing this much code, the basic UI which is going to look like this, which contain email address and password as an input field and one login button. Now user is going to fill the input and going to click on the login button. After that we are going to access email address and password. For that we have written a basic PHP code. So to verify whether the user have clicked on the login button or not, we are going to use post method. So here in the if condition, by using isSet method, we are going to check whether user have clicked the login button or not. If the user have clicked the login button, then we are going to access email ID and the password, and we are going to store those variables values in our variable which is the email ID and the password. Now we are going to verify user email ID and password. If user have entered the email ID as abc@gmail.com and password is 123, then we are going to store our email ID in the session variable which is session email ID, and we are going to make status of the user as true, which was false before. Now after that we are going to redirect user to the welcome page by using header function, and if the user email ID and password does not match, then we are going to display invalid credential as the output message. So to store the session variable, you have to first start the session at the top of the code. Now we are going to see how to write code for the welcome page. Now to access the session variable, we again start the session at the top of the code. Now here is the basic HTML which contain head and the body. In the body, I have written the h2 tag in which I have written a basic message which is the hello, your email ID is. To access the email ID of the user which user have entered, I have embedded the PHP code inside it. So to access the email ID, I have used session email ID variable which I have stored in the login form. After that, I have created one logout button. By using that, if user click on the logout button, then we are going to redirect user to the login page. To listen the click event on the logout button, I have given a name as a logout. Whether the user have clicked on the logout button or not, that we are going to check using the isSet method. If the user have clicked on the logout button, then we are going to run one script which is the logout.php. Now in logout.php, I am going to access the session variable again. Now to destroy those session variable, I have used the method session underscore unset to destroy those variables. Now after destroying those variables, I am again going to redirect user to the login.php. So this is the basic login logout system which I have implemented using the session and small PHP script. Now there is a one basic scenario in which if the user knows the URL of the page, then user is trying to directly access those pages. So to avoid user from accessing those pages directly without login, we are going to check whether the user have logged in or not. So for that, consider one example in which user is directly, if in this user directly want to access the welcome.php page. So before accessing welcome.php, we are going to check whether the session status is true or not. If the session status is not true, then we are redirecting user to the login.php again. Here, if the session initially we have declared our session status as a false, and if the user credentials are valid, then we make our status as a true. And in the welcome page at the top, after starting a session, we first check whether our session status is true, and if it is true, then we are going to allow user to access the welcome page. Otherwise, we are redirecting user to the login page.